Okay, so let's begin now. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all the participants of the webinar on why MBA. The speakers for this session are Ms. Sambhavi Ganguly and Ms. Tejasvi Jagdish. So I would like to give a small brief introduction about our speakers for this session. So Ms. Sambhavi Ganguly is an electronics engineer from YMCA Faridabad. She has worked with Synopsys as R&D engineer for 4 years, and she has completed her MBA from IIM Lucknow and was awarded the gold medal for graduating top of her class. She has then completed, she has worked in Reliance Industries Limited and as a project management institute in corporate strategy domain. She is now working as a management consultant with Accenture Strategy. Welcome, Sambhavi. I would also like to introduce the our second speaker for today. Ms. Tejasvi Jagdish has spent more than 9 years in engagement management, management consulting, and business analysis roles, working with clients that are global leaders in insurance and banking outside of change management and digital transformation experience. Tejasvi has spent the last 2 years as engagement manager for a Boston-based tech startup with a product focused on process mining through machine learning. So welcome, Tejasvi. So we would like to start the session now. So we would like to take the questions after the end of the talk. So students, I request you to post in your questions in the chat box, and then we shall take it up. So I'll let our first speaker for today, Ms. Sambhavi, to take over with the proceedings of the webinar.
Sure, Tejas, thank you. I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, Sambhavi, it's visible.
Okay, great. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for that gracious introduction. My name is Sambhavi Ganguly, and I will today make an attempt to help you understand why and how someone can make a decision around doing an MBA, and what are the next steps if you do choose to go ahead with the career path. I will, in the process, also use my life story in the hope that some of you would be able to relate to it and can learn from my experience of the journey. So in my humble experience, this is the life cycle of, say, a typical student in India, at least mine was. So we go about doing our 10th and 12th and engineering in an autopilot mode because someone told our parents that this is the way to go about it. And suddenly after our engineering, we grow up and realize, well, we could do more or less, or we could be doing something different. And that's where this question mark pops in, what after engineering? I was in a similar situation. I actually had considerable work experience before I came to this crossroad. I was doing well as an R&D engineer in a VLSI organization designing SRAM circuits. So, do you guys know what SRAM circuits are? Do we have any electronics engineers here as well? I will take that as a yes and go ahead. So you might know what I'm talking about if you're an electronics engineer. And while that was fun, I was also doing other things within the project that I was working on, like planning project details, resourcing, organizing meetings, mentoring and training teams, etc., just as additional activities. But slowly I realized that these are the things I like and enjoy doing more than designing circuits. What my organization's quarterly growth was sounded more fun than how many microamps of current the NMOS was drawing. I'm sorry, I'm going to use a lot of electronics references here. Please bear with me. So I decided to know more about this, and it turns out these management skills and business skills form the core of an MBA education. So this was sort of like my wake up call to do an MBA. So if you're in some sort of similar crossroad, do try to understand who you are and what you like doing while undertaking any activity to gauge if there are skills that can be honed further through an MBA degree. Now here I have listed down some of the myths surrounding MBA that I have come across. Let us take them one by one. The first one is MBA is only for extroverts, the street smart people, people who can talk their way through life. Well, that's not true. While I have to admit that certain fields like sales do provide extroverts a slight edge, but there could be several success. I mean, you would find several successful MBA executives who classify themselves as introverts as well. So, if this is deterring you from taking the plunge, then please don't factor this in. If you're an introvert, or at least think of yourself as an introvert, you can still absolutely rock the course and corresponding careers, because MBA doesn't need you to be an extrovert. But there is a big possibility that after doing that course, after doing an MBA, giving umpteen number of presentations, interacting and networking with thousands of your peers and mentors, you might just open up more. But even if that isn't the case, you can still be great at it. The second one is that MBA is a must for budding entrepreneurs. So let me break it out to you. MBA is not a prerequisite for entrepreneurship. While it can teach you about entrepreneurship, you can still start something of your own without requiring a degree. But what MBA does is provide you a network of your peers, seniors, juniors, mentors, and professors who can help you sharpen your idea, who can review your business plans, and some colleges even provide seed funding to your ideas and incubation centers for your startups. The third one is knowledge of specialization. So you are not required to have it all figured out before starting a course. Some of us get intimidated by the fact that we don't know enough about what lies ahead, and that sometimes stops us from taking the right step. So, if that's you, I urge you to please stop right there, because frankly, most of my batchmates who graduated with me were clueless about what they wanted to do post MBA. We figured it out during the course, and some of us are still in the process of exploration. You can be a marketer, a sales manager, an operations manager, a finance person, an HR professional, whatever you like. And that's the beauty of an MBA. It opens up some of the doors of opportunity for you that you can pick and choose from based on what your interests are, what your capabilities are, and what opportunities are available. The fourth one is MBA is designed only for engineers. No, MBA is not designed for engineers. People with finance, marketing, sales work experience do get an edge during the course. CAs and BCom people get educational diversity advantage. And while I do agree that being an engineer, you may have better grip on mathematics that's tested in CAT and some of the subjects in the course as well, but in the long run, having a non-engineering background, be it academic or work experience wise, is definitely not a disadvantage, I'd say. The final myth that I would like to talk about is getting an admission is the toughest part of the journey. So some of you may be thinking that getting an admit in a reputed MBA institute is the toughest part. I will say that that's just the first step. So, yes, making it to a top institute is an achievement in itself, but that's just the beginning of the game. If you ever decide to do an MBA, and whenever you decide to do an MBA and do happen to get an admit to a good institute, I would urge you to go in with the learner's mindset. Because while you may think that you finally arrived after, say, cracking an IIM or something, there is still a long way to go. So do keep an open mind and have the humility to learn new things. And I think that's the key here. It's a life lesson and not just an MBA lesson, I would say. So now, how do you make the decision? Is MBA the right path forward? I think, in my opinion, you can answer this question by answering these five following questions for yourself. This is just a broad framework for you to look at. These are not sacrosanct rules for you to figure out whether MBA is the right way to go for you or not. But this can just sort of help you get an idea whether that's the thing you want to do. So these are five questions that you have to answer for your own self. Nobody is going to answer it for you. You have to do it. You have to make that effort to do it. The first one is who? Who am I? Understand what your capabilities are, what your current skills are, where your interests lie, what do your past achievements and failures say about you? What do your colleagues and seniors say about you? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Do an in and out assessment of yourself. There are several frameworks, if you Google about them, that can help you do an assessment, self assessment. SWOT being one of them. SWOT is strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. SWOT can be used for analyzing anything from an organization to a person to a family to a small group of people, anything. And that's the simplest framework. You can also take psychometric tests to analyze yourself. There are several ways you can analyze your strengths, opportunities, capabilities, what you like, what you don't like. But this is the first step to figuring out your answer to why MBA, and this is the core of it. The second one is where. Where do I want to go? What's your vision for life? Answer the common interview question for yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you see yourself, say, leading and directing a project, or do you see yourself designing a web app, or do you see yourself doing both or neither? What is your definition of success, and what might that look like 5 years down the line? What does a fulfilling career mean to you? Answer these questions for yourself. The third step is figuring out the what. What do you want to achieve? Define your goals. Is it money? How much? Is it work life balance? Is it meaningful work? Is it climbing the corporate ladder? Is it publishing research papers, winning a Nobel Prize? Whatever it is, just write down your top goals in terms of what do you want out of this life, out of this career. And the fourth one is when. Assigning a dedicated timeline to each of your goals is very necessary. Otherwise, they are just dreams. And dreams are something that we dream, but we may or may not achieve. So define your goals in terms of a timeline. For example, if you want to win a Nobel Prize, in how many years? Do you want to win it in 10 years? What should you have accomplished in the next 2 to 5 years for winning a Nobel Prize in, say, 10 years? Draw your timeline and a roadmap for that. And finally, the most important step is how. After you're done analyzing yourself and your goals and vision, you need to figure out how. If your goal is to say, write X number of research papers, maybe doing a PhD is a better idea. If your goal is to become, say, a CEO, maybe starting a business or doing an MBA could be the first step. These are just hypothetical examples. So, in this step, we understand what is the best way to reach our goals we've defined in the previous step. Now, finally, if from the previous analysis, MBA does come out as the answer to achieving your major career goals, then what should you do next? So, I have defined a broad plan for you, but of course, this can vary. The sequence can change, and you can add more steps to it based on who you are, where you're at, etc. So, the broad steps could be number one, building your profile. So, a career with an MBA or even an admit will require you to demonstrate yourself as a multifaceted personality, one who doesn't waste his or her time, one who is curious, who's passionate, who's keen on learning, one who is also fun. So, if you have, say, a hobby like playing guitar, build on that, win competitions, show certifications, gain teaching or performance experience with guitar, because simply showing academic merit may not be sufficient, and anyways you can't do much about your 10th and 12th scores. So maybe study a little harder for an engineering and get good scores, but do try to build a well-rounded profile, and that's very important to securing an admit and also for post MBA career. The second thing is preparing for CAT. So I am sure everyone here would have heard about the most popular entrance test whose score is used by several big institutes, including IIMs. Though you do have other tests as well, like XAT, NMAT, etc., which are also very important. But overall, the format is same. You have to prepare for those several basic aspects, and I think you're good to go. So you can Google all about writing CAT, writing NMAT, writing XAT, and find out so many ways how to prepare for them. So I won't get into those details here. But yes, cracking that admission test and getting a good score is super important to get an admit. The third step is after you've say given your CAT and gotten a good score and received interview calls from colleges based on your profile and CAT score. Interview preparation is a different ball game altogether. This is like a crash course in IAS, if I may put it like that. You need to brush up your GK, you need to brush up your current affairs, engineering basics, mathematics, because you can be asked about anything that's in your profile and outside of it. But I guess in my experience, it's been fun as well. I mean, it'll prepare you for the MBA degree and the career that follows. So have fun preparing for all of it. I mean, if you take it as a monotonous step by step process, it'll just tire you, to be very frank, and you don't want to be tired. You want to keep the fun alive while you're also learning. And finally, I think the fourth step is just keep reminding yourself to stay calm. Take your answer to YMBA and write it down somewhere and hang it somewhere in your room where you can see it daily. It'll help you through your preparations, it'll help you during your MBA course, it'll help you after it as well. So if you ever question yourself as to why you're doing what you're doing, even after you get an admit or after you complete the degree or after you're working, I mean, after completing your degree, this is the place for you to go to. So this is sort of like your cornerstone to why you're at where you're at, and this will help you guide you towards where you want to go. I think this is all I had to say. I'm not sure if we'll be taking the questions now or later, but if there's time, I can take up questions now or whenever, Shreyas.
Yes. Thank you, Sambhavi. That was a very sweet and nice explanation and about your journey and your story. So what we'll do, Sambhavi, is that we will have the second speaker as well to present her views about this, and then we'll take up all the questions together. Is that fine?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Tejasi, you may now take over the proceedings.
All right, let me share my screen. Can you see the presentation?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I'll skip through some of the parts that Sambhav has already covered, but I thought I'll talk a little bit about my journey like she did, right? So I completed my engineering in 2009 when there was a kind of global economic crisis. Although I did my engineering in electronics, I had no option but to go for a programming role in one of the IT companies that came to our campus. I quickly realized that I couldn't continue doing that, and I went for an MBA in 2012. And then on, I have been a business analyst, a management consultant, an engagement manager, and now a consulting manager. Uh, I've switched 3 companies in the last 9 years. So that's been my journey so far. I won't waste a lot of time on this, but I've not heard a lot of participation. So if there are any MBA aspirants in the meeting today, I want to hear from you because this is a very common question that is asked in MBA interviews. Why do you want to do an MBA?
Students, you may either unmute yourself and answer the question, or if you can also put it down in the chat box.
Okay. So
So yes,
speaking up is also one of the things that you
yeah,
guys
one of
will
the
need to
things.
work on to learn
Yeah,
good
so this
management
is
skills. Yes.
so Tejasvi ma'am, this is the journey that we have as a professor or a faculty, in online sessions, telling our students to ask your doubts and replying to things.
Okay. Yep.
So this is a typical classroom.
I know.
So you get very less responses.
No, that's fine. At least I got one. So
Yeah.
good job, Yagnesh. Okay, so I'll move on. I want to tell you the wrong reasons first, right? And Sambhavi touched on this a little bit. Uh, I want to earn more money. I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. Parents are telling me to do post graduation, and MBA is one choice that I like. And I'm not good at what I'm learning right now, which is engineering. I feel all these are the wrong reasons. There are people who have not done MBAs who earn more than me, who are the same age as me. There are introverts that have done really well post MBA, who are my friends. I'm an introvert myself. I'm not good at engineering, so there are a lot of engineering skills that you will use during and after your MBA. Analytics, critical thinking. These are skills that you use in engineering, and that will be useful to you during and after an MBA as well. Definitely don't go for post graduation if you don't want to. Only if your parents are telling you that's what is going to earn you more money. These are kind of the wrong reasons to go for an MBA. The right ones are exactly what Sambhavi described, right? She found it more interesting what her company's quarterly revenue was like, rather than circuits, etc. So I want to understand how organizations make money. I want to help them make better money, more money, better products, make, sell, market, whatever. Or I want to become an entrepreneur, and I like business acumen. So I want to put a caveat here. I'm not saying here that if you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to do an MBA. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who have not done MBAs. But if you feel that you lack that business acumen, an MBA is a good place to start. And the last one also, I think Sambhavi touched upon, right? She said, getting into cracking CAT or getting into a good college is just a start. You have to be able to constantly learn new things, constantly learn from your peers, surround yourself with the people who you think are adding value to your acumen, to your career goals. So constantly, the ability and the readiness to constantly learn is something that this is the right reason to kind of join an MBA course. How do you choose a B school? If you do well in CAT, you will have a lot of choices. If you don't do very well, you won't have a lot of choices. But here are the 2 or 3 things that you should look for. Look for good ROI. What is the average campus placement CTC, right? Versus how much you're about to pay. Does the college have a great alumni network and a great brand? A great brand will give you will kickstart your career post MBA, because a recognizable brand always helps wherever you go. And a great alumni network also helps, because wherever you're going or whatever you're doing, it helps to have people who are going to coach you, guide you, vouch for you. So if you're starting a business, if you're doing entrepreneurship, it might help to have a good alumni network, give you good counseling on that. If you're joining some kind of a consulting company, it might help to have a alumni network within that company who will kind of get you started and help you along your journey. So a good alumni network is very, very valuable. And understand the diversity of the students, because like I said in the last slide, it's very important for you to learn from your peers. Very less of the learning that happens in MBA is actually in the classrooms. All the side projects that you do, all the competitions that you participate in, all the people that you surround yourself with, they are more important. And learning from them is more important. Of course, I don't think I should say this, but I have seen people joining MBA colleges for the following reasons. Don't go where your friends are going. And don't make that a reason for joining an MBA college. And don't go to a college that's just because it's close to home and you won't have to travel much. I'm a Goan and I went to GIM. So full disclosure, I did that, but not because I didn't make that choice because it was close to home, but because it was one of the better colleges that I got access to. All right, I'll move on. What can you do after an MBA, right? These are some of the most common things. It's not a exhaustive list. There's much more that you can do, but you can get most common things that people do after an MBA is get into consulting, do marketing or sales, go into investment banks, become a business owner, perform financial advisory, do data analytics, run projects, become an HR professional. So these are some of your options. If any of this sounds exciting, that's another reason to do an MBA, because it will get you again a kickstart. I'm not saying there are people in all these fields who have not done MBAs, but it'll give you a kickstart if you do one. Since I'm a consultant myself, I want to talk about what happens in consulting. I'll spend 2 minutes on it just so that everyone understands what consulting is and whether it makes you feel that you're well suited to a life like that. Um, as a consultant, I've done market entry strategy. So I'll give you an example. Right now, I'm doing a project where an American payroll company wants to extend their business into Japan, and they have hired Accenture, where I work, as a consultant to tell them whether they should do it, how much money they will make, how they should do it, why they should do it, is there a better option, doing all of that analysis and going back to them and saying this is the right way to do it, this is how much you stand to gain, and these are the reasons why you should do it. That's what a consultant does. Another is product strategy. It's a digital world. Many of the projects that you do will be digital in nature. Uh, Figuring out what kind of a digital product works best for your clients will solve some of their problems. And problems can be I'm not getting enough customers. Another business problem can be I'm losing a lot of money. Another business problem could be I want a certain subset of customers to start liking my product. So solving these kind of specific business problems using digital technology. Uh, Another thing that consultants do is they do maturity assessments. So for example, one project that I've done recently is there's an insurer in Singapore who has operations in 10 South Asian countries, who wanted Accenture to tell them whether they are doing well in AI or not. So as consultants, you go interview the CEO, COO, their L1 leadership, their operations team, their data analytics team, and you figure out how mature they are in terms of AI, and do they have the right skills, the right people, the right management direction, the right operating model. So you figure out whether they're doing things right, and you consult them on how to do them better. A few of the others are, cost transformation, digital transformation, all related to either selling more products or saving more money. Post M&A consolidation, a lot of the India-based consulting companies do this because a lot of shared service centers are run out of Asia. So you do there are a lot of projects where, let's say an American company or a European company has bought over an Asian company, and they hire a consultant to decide which part of the processes are kept by the Asian company and which part of the processes are kept by the headquarters. And how people are to be aligned accordingly. So that's one of the last slides I had, but let me know if you have any questions. I think both me and Sambhavi can take any questions you have.
Yes, thank you, Tejasvi. That was a very good presentation and very interesting journey you have had. And thank you for touching upon a lot of things. Before we start with the questions, I would request the students, if you want, you can unmute yourself and ask the questions, or you can type them in the chat box. And also, we have with us the Training and Placement Officer, Professor Avila Naik. Ma'am.
Yes. Hello, Tejasvi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Sambhavi. Thank you so much for accepting this, to be present virtually with us, and thank you for your inputs. Really thank you, because at Don Bosco we try to gauge the student in terms of their career right from first year. So we have even first year students who have joined today the session, and second year, third year, and even final year too. But those who are interested, basically, and that's the reason why we do all such sessions for them. So thank you for being a part of it. And Shreyas, thank you so much for coordinating this session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So students, you can put down your questions now in the chat box, and we'll take it one by one. So to quick start the session of question and answers, I would like to ask a couple of questions myself. Because there are a lot of questions that a lot of students come to me and ask doubts about. Even even after they have just finished the engineering, they want to go for MBA, or after a couple of years, right? So I want to ask the first question to both of you is, and that is also a lot of the students might have this question in their mind is, when do we exactly go for MBA? Do we go after engineering? If you realize, okay, after engineering is not my cup of tea, and I'm good at management, right? So should I go after that, or whether working in industry for a couple of years is better? Okay, getting that experience, right? And then probably joining or going for an MBA. What do you feel is your opinion about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Tejas.
Okay, I'll go first. Maybe you can add, Shambhavi.
Sure.
Uh, in my opinion, don't do an MBA right after engineering. Get some life experience. Go out there in the world. Get some work experience. It not only helps you in understanding what kind of MBA you want to do later. Because I'll tell you my story. I wanted to do HR, and I worked for 2 years, and I realized I should not do or don't want to do HR. So I took that advice. 2009 was a bad time to graduate because companies weren't hiring. So I did answer CAT. Then I did get a good score. I did get a good college, but I got good advice then to go for work experience for at least 2 years, figure out uh, figure out how the world runs, uh, and figure out what I wanted to do next before I did my MBA and before I chose my college, my stream, my major. So I would recommend. Also, a lot of companies do when they come to hire from MBA colleges, they do prefer experienced candidates instead of freshers. So those are the two reasons that come to me.
Yeah, I would second that, Tejasi. So basically, I think I would start with, why do you want to do an MBA again? So is it because you want to go for higher studies after MBA? Do you want to do a doctorate in some business management, or do you want to like climb up the corporate ladder and explore other opportunities? One. So if you've answered that question of why MBA for yourself, then you decide whether you want to take up more experience before going for an MBA or not. One is because, so how much experience is enough experience? So as far as I know, for most of the IIMs and other colleges, you get, so a certain score is assigned to you based on your profile and your CAT score when you get an admit to get an admit in an IIM, and that score is a cumulative of various factors: your marks in 10th, your marks in 12th, your graduation score, and also your work experience. So for 1 to 3 years, you get a certain score. But if you have, as far as I know, this is not a sacrosanct rule for most of the good colleges. But if you have more work experience, say 4 or 5 years or 6 years or 7 years of work experience, that's, I think, um, disincentivized. So people don't want people from such high experience to do a full-time MBA. You can do an executive MBA if you say have 7 or 8 years of experience, but for a regular full-time MBA, at least in India, you should have a work experience of 1 to 3 years, and that should be sufficient. And like TGC mentioned, that will help you in your placements going forward as well. So, and from an overall learning perspective as well, so a lot of things would tend to make sense to you when you have worked in an organization, when you have worked in projects with people. So those things may not make a lot of sense for you right out of engineering, but they might just be useful for you when you have some work experience.
Okay, thank you, Tejasvi and Sambhavi, for answering that question. So, okay, I'll quickly ask a couple of questions before we go to the couple of questions on in the chat box as well. So, there's one personal question to Sambhavi and Tejasvi. So, I'll start with Sambhavi first. So, Sambhavi, it was really nice presentation, and I'm very glad that you remember your electronics so well, even after being in management. And yeah, so I have worked with Sambhavi. We have both interned together in a company, ST Microelectronics, and we have both worked on SRAM there, and it was good fun. She was a very good teammate, and like we did a lot of R&D over there, and then Sambhavi went on to join Synopsys and do a lot of work over there. That's really nice. Sambhavi, I want to know, you chose after 4 years in Synopsys, right? You decided to take up MBA, and there are different fields, right? There are different fields in MBA, and you chose a particular field. How did you go about it? Like, you You did, but first, yes, first, of course, you decided to do it, and then you answered your CAT, you got your score, and then you chose a college. How was that? And then why did you choose a particular branch in an MBA? That's what we would like to know.
So thankfully for me, IIMs offer MBA degree in general management, so we are not required to choose specialization. You can actually choose courses. So for example, if I want to show myself to as a marketing specialized individual, I can have more courses in my second year for marketing, but otherwise it's not a requirement. So first year is common for everyone, whether you are a finance person or you're an operations person. That's common for everyone. Everyone has to do the same set of courses. In second year, if your college offers a specialization, then you go for those kind of courses, and if it doesn't, and you want to show yourself in a certain light to the recruiters, then you go for those kind of specializations. Me, to be very frank, I was not, like I had mentioned in my presentation as well, I pre MBA I had no clue what I want to do after MBA. I liked everything. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I liked everything. I wanted to know everything. I just went on with an explorer's mindset ki we'll see what happens. Dekhi jayegi, to be very frank. And after doing my MBA, I found interests in areas that weren't offered as specialization, to be very frank. I was not very interested in finance, but I was interested in economics. I liked marketing, and I liked strategy. So I chose those bucket of courses, and it didn't turn out to be a specialization, and that didn't matter. Those were the courses I wanted to go with, and I kept my options open. So now that I've specialized in I have done courses in strategy and marketing and economics. I think one most obvious choice of career for me became strategy and consulting. So because consulting requires you to, I think Tejasi can add to that and attest to that as well. Consulting requires you to have T-shaped skills where you have breadth of knowledge and sort of develop subject matter expertise in something. So I would say for me, specialization thing never happened. Maybe it'll happen 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, maybe not if I choose to remain a consultant, but that's not a prerequisite, I'd say.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Sambhavi, for answering that. So yes, Tejasvi, for you also, I would like to ask something similar. I've known you for a last more than 15 years now, and we have been batchmates, right? And I remember that you had got selected in Cognizant, right, that campus placement. So, and as far as I remember, you have been a very bright student, better than me at least, and you were good at programming. So, what changed? Like, why did it? What happened after 2 years? Like, why did you wanted to shift into MBA?
I wasn't good at programming. I
Okay.
was a good student, but I wasn't good at
Yeah.
programming. No, I think I wanted to apply rather than follow. Um,
Acha.
so
Hmm.
the idea was, I think like Sambhavi said, right? I was more interested. So there was this one design thinking session we had done uh, back in 2010 when I was a programmer, and we were trying to solve a very specific problem for the client, and we did like a whiteboarding session with them, and it happened to include the lowlies like us. And I found that so interesting, and the people who did that so interesting that I was like, I want to be that instead of. Uh, instead of coding, right? There are people who are 100% into that. Coding is also problem solving. My husband is a coder, so I the there's but there is a different approach, right? It's problem solving in terms of there's this one cool thing I want to fix with a product or with a code, or there's one business problem that I want to solve with my knowledge or deep understanding in that particular area. Like some of you said, you need to have a broad understanding of how organizations in general make money and how cash flows, how losses happen. But you also need to have a little bit of subject matter expertise in wherever you are. For me, that's insurance and banking. So I thought that was a better area than to use my problem solving skills rather than a specific kind of digital product or code. And I was not good at coding.
Thank you, Tejasvi. So I'll take up those questions now, which are popping up in the chat box. Okay, Tejasvi, can you stop presenting so we can have a grid view here? Yeah. So the first question is by Rutvik Vaze. Ma'am, as we all know, if you want to get into good management colleges, then you have to, they have higher fees. So what are the scholarships available for students from lower income economic classes? So anyone would, you would like to take the question?
I can take that up. So, just one second, Rutvik, right? Yeah. So, Rutvik,
Yes.
one is there are scholarships available for based on your means come merit basis. There are caste-based scholarships as well available, but I would say don't bank on them. A lot of people do take education loans, and generally are able to pay off easily because of whatever package they get. So not everyone can afford to give like 15-20 lakhs upfront, and that's fine. A lot of people take education loans, and those kind of facilities are available. You don't have to give a collateral against the loan if you're taking an education loan while you're, say, in a good education institute. So that shouldn't be a deterrent for you to make that choice right away.
Yeah, thank you, Sambhavi. Uh, the next question is, ma'am, if a candidate is from general category, then is it true that he or she has to score above 99 percentile to get into top IIMs? So I think, Sambhavi, the question is directed towards you.
See, again, 99 percentile is not a rule. So what happens is, for you to get an admission in an IIM, there are certain criterias which are added up. So it's like a weighted average of a few things. Okay, the first of one of those parameters would be CAT score. The second of those parameters could be say 10th and 12th percentage. The third parameter would be how you performed in your interviews. The fourth could be say what is your academic background, and so on and so forth. And the weightage changes with college. So I know in our time FMS used to give a lot of weight to CAT score. I think now it's reduced. So if you want to get into FMS, you have to, CAT score is the only thing you can tweak. Is the only thing you have in your hand. But in my times, somebody even with, I think, 87 percentile got into IIM Ahmedabad because she had diversity of experience and uh, diversity of a few things, and then she performed really well in her interview. So those kind of corner cases also happen. So I wouldn't say go by this general rule that you have to score 99 percentile, but yeah, having a good percentile, 97, 98 percentile, will obviously be advantageous to you because that will skew your chances towards getting an admit.
Okay, okay. Yes, thank you, Sambhavi. The next question is, ma'am, which year would we, can we start preparing for CAT? So I would like to hear from both of you all if you have any contradictory opinions about that.
Go ahead, Tejas, you go first.
As early as you want. Uh, it depends on your strengths. So I've always found that I was okay at English, so I didn't need to work much on that. I was not so good at quant, so I had to work hard on that. Uh, so it's the practice that you do rather than the number of years you prepare for it. Uh, I know people who have cracked CAT the first time with 3 months of preparation, but there are others who have not practiced enough and had to give it a couple of times or so. So it depends on your strengths, but it's like I think the key is to practice where you think you need work, and uh, get somebody else to assess how good you are instead of doing a self judgment.
Yeah, that I think covers it all. It covers all bases. So start ASAP, and it'll depend on where you are. But for me personally, I started in 2000. So I didn't start very seriously until 2014 end, and then 1 year I was preparing just fine and prepared very seriously for the last 4 or 5 months. But then that's the case to case basis. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you both of you for answering that question. Okay, so students, are there any more questions from your side? Tejasvi, I would also like to ask you one more question. As you have been an alumni, you're an alumni of Goa Institute of Management, and recently they have launched a program called as Big Data Analytics. So, can you just if you have any idea, can you just throw some light on it?
Yeah, I recently hired from GIM for Accenture Strategy Consulting. But so we went looking specifically for those skills. So Accenture SNC doesn't go to any, at least my group doesn't go to any MBA college other than IIM ABC and ISB. But we went to two colleges specifically for a specialized set of skills. One was this analytics, for which we came to GIM, and we went to MDI. And the other was insurance. So there's a college called NIA in Pune where we hired specifically for that. So, but it's a I won't speak much about the quality of that course because I really don't know. But it's a gamble to get specialized while you're doing your MBA. If you really don't go for it because you think there's a market demand for it, go for it if you really like number crunching and data analytics. It's a gamble to specialize then, because most times, like Sambhavi said, people don't even know while they're doing an MBA what they want to do. Even after they have done an MBA and have been hired by a company, they are still exploring. So don't go for a specialization unless you are truly interested in that.
Okay, thanks, Tejasvi, for answering that. Okay, there's a question in the chat box which I would like to take up. Ma'am, can you give some insight on the subject organizational behavior and human resource management and its importance in the corporate world? So, anyone, if you have taken these subjects, if you would like to add some inputs on this, give some inputs on this.
Tejasvi, do you want to take it given that you were interested in HR?
Yeah, this OB was a mandatory one in the first year. I didn't do HRM because I realized quickly I don't want to do HR. No, and I wanted to do HR before I started working. Then I realized I don't want to do HR. But yeah, OB teaches you how organizations work, and HRM actually just is a specialized thing for HR people. So I don't think me and Sambhavi can comment on how useful they are in life after MBA. They are useful for people who do HR.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to add something, Sambhavi?
No, I just agreed with what Tejasvi said. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Students, are there any more questions from your side? You can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask, or you can put them down in the chat box. So, okay, a quick recap of what Sambhavi ma'am and Tejasvi ma'am have said. I started my MBA preparation, I think in third year end or final year, and those are the two reasons why I started preparation. And as the Sambhavi and Tejasvi said, for the wrong reasons, that because all my friends were going to do MBA, and the other thing is, okay, we will get paid more money. So, and while I was not, I was on waitlist for Symbiosis, and then I quickly realized that I'm not. This is not my cup of tea, and I had a calling from the inner engineer, or you can say, I started loving electronics basically in the final year, and that's why I've ended up over here. So yes, that actually sums up, like, don't do things for wrong reasons, like just because your friends are doing, or you want to earn money. It might not be the case. Okay, there's another question over here. uh, Omer says that no, nowadays we can do MBA online. Is it good to go for it? Okay, I'm not aware of this, but yeah.
Do you want to tell
uh,
us which MBA, what kind of MBA that is?
yes, Homer, because I'm also not sure what MBA is done on, typically completely online, or maybe it was just because of COVID restrictions. They might have had it online. Umar, are you there? In Upgrad, they provide. Okay, Upgrad provides a lot of things. Okay, so I think we'll have to. Any of you, some of you, Tejas, you know anything about people who have passed out from Upgrad? Because there's a lot of thing I'm hearing about Upgrad giving masters from University of Berkeley. You know, they have got, they've roped in all these, universities from foreign, basically, sorry, foreign universities, and they're giving master's degrees, right? So I don't know how good they are as well, but if you have any idea, then you can answer that.
Yeah, I actually have not spoken to anybody who has gone through these online courses. But again, I think that slide that TGC presented on how you should choose an MBA college would be useful here. So if check on their placement stats, check on their ROI things, check on their alumni base, and if you think that that's checking on all of those boxes, then go ahead. But in my opinion, I don't think, at least in India, it holds a lot of value, but that's just my opinion because I've not spoken to a lot of folks. But yeah, that I think that slide would be a good starting point for you to seek more knowledge about these programs.
Okay, thank you, Sambhavi. Okay, so students, if there are no more questions, then we can end this session. Are there any questions from your side? Okay, I guess that was it. So let me quickly uh, give a small thank you note to both our speakers for today. Thank you, Sambhavi, and thank you, Tejasi. So we really appreciate the time and efforts that you have taken to deliver talk on why MBA for the students of Don Bosco College of Engineering, and your efforts are truly appreciated. And we hope that your interaction with our students will definitely boost them and motivate them. The talk will also we hope the talk will also instill required preparation and skills that our students would require for pursuing MBA in future. So thank you very much, and we wish you continued success in your future. Thank you so much. Avila ma'am, would you like to add something?
No, Shreyas, thanks to both our speakers, and we really hope that both of them will be able to visit us sometime soon at our campus. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your inputs. And a big thank you to Shreyas for organizing this. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, students, as well for joining the session. I hope you have liked and enjoyed it. Thank you once again, Tejasi and Sambhavi. Take care and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Tejas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye.